welcome back. All right, so in the past weeks, we've talked about gardening and foraging, but there's something we haven't quite yet touched on, but we do need to touch on it when it comes to survival and food acquisition, and that's hunting. Now, there are two animals that, no matter where I've been, I've encountered. Rabbits. Even saw a couple rabbits when I was in Afghanistan. So, rabbits are everywhere. And they're very prolific, so they tend to be a lot of them out there. There's even some in the Arctic. So, rabbits, they're a very small animal. And then another one that I found almost everywhere, is snakes. At some point in time, I've seen snakes almost now. Granted, living in El Paso, I would think that I would see more snakes than what I have. I've only actually seen one snake in the 13 years, how long have I been here? Yeah, like 13, 14. In the 14 years I've been here in El Paso, I've only seen one snake, but they are here. Granted, I'm not out looking for them in the desert, but I know that they're here. So, when it comes to hunting these smaller animals, you have to choose the right firearm. And I think that if you are getting into survival and prepping for food acquisition and stuff, and there may be a little bit of pushback on this, but I think that the first rifle that everybody should get is a .22. And not only just any .22, but I recommend a bolt-action .22. Now, there are a lot of reasons why I would recommend something similar to this. This is a Savage Mark II, and I like this rifle. But there's a lot of different bolt-action .22s out there, and the reason that I would recommend this one above others for like the first rifle that someone would pick up. There's a lot of reasons. First and foremost is the weight. It's not heavy. It's an extremely light rifle. It's not loud. There's a little bit of a bang to it, but when you consider some of the higher calibers, this is relatively a quiet rifle to fire. There's no recoil to speak of because, being that it is a very small caliber, so this is not going to damage your shoulder. So that would be the first reason that I would recommend a .22. The second reason is affordability. .22s are relatively inexpensive to acquire. They don't cost you. They're not going to cost you a lot of money, so you can get a good .22, and you're not really going to feel the pain too much. Along with price goes the cost of ammunition. This is a box of 250 .22 bullets, and I think this was like $28. So, this is probably still the most affordable round on the market. You can get a whole lot of them for a little bit of money. So, like the weight, the cost. Now, some people you might want to wonder, well, why a bolt action? Why not a semi-automatic? Because you only fire one shot at a time, then you have to reload. Right. Well, that's exactly why. Because let's say that when you do, and it is unloaded, there's not a round in the magazine, but you got a 10-round magazine. Now you load one round at a time. Well, if something goes wrong with this round, it's easy to clear because it'll pop right out, and then you can load your next round. Now, along with that, there's very few malfunctions other than a dead round with a bolt-action rifle. So it's also this is one of the more reliable rifles is a bolt-action because it just loads a single round. You don't have to worry about a double feed. So that's another reason why I highly recommend it, is because the fact that it's easy to use. You're not going to have a lot of malfunctions with this. And if you do, usually it's just a bad round. So, um, going along with that, another reason that I do recommend, especially for a survival situation, is that going back to the fact that there's rabbits and snakes everywhere, there are going to be more. There's going to be more smaller game than large game. Granted, if you live deep in the woods, you might see deer or elk or bear all the time, but you're probably going to see a lot more rabbits and squirrels. So the likelihood of you needing a smaller round is going to be greater than needing a larger round. Now, if you live in an area where you can get an elk or a deer, you definitely want a larger round than this. This is not going to cut it. But if you live somewhere where you're going to have where your primary source of meat is going to be small game, small animals, snakes, rabbits, squirrels, possibly some birds, although this is not really good for hunting birds, but the smaller caliber is going to be much better. Like this right here, right? Just like my shirt says. Over here, this is your 22 long rifle. It's a very small round. And then, like if you're going for like a deer or an elk, you're going to be using one of these. More likely the 30-06, 308 type round. You're going to be using a much larger, powerful round because that's what you're going to need to take it down. So now, and another reason is because, going back with that I do recommend a 22 is because this bag here, this is 250 rounds. That's 250 rabbits, 250 snakes, 250 squirrels. That will acquire this little box for $28 has the ability to feed you almost every day for a year, if you're lucky. So the size of the bullets that you're going to be carrying, you can pack a lot of bullets in a small area. So if you're limited on space, the 22 is going to take up a lot less room than say a 223 or a 308. So, and if you do have those larger calibers and you're going after a rabbit or a squirrel, you're going to tend to destroy a lot more of the meat because it is a much larger caliber. So, and you don't want to hit it with anything too big, especially because if you're going for center mass, you want to be able to salvage as much of the meat as possible. So, I mean, and another thing is that with the bolt action rifle here, and it came with this scope, but when you have a decent optic like this, then again you can hit the rabbit with one round. And a well placed round, you're only going to fire one shot. It's not going to be terribly loud. So if you are in a situation where you need to not be found, one shot, one kill. That's what you want. And so now I do have a larger hunting rifle, which we will talk about at a later date. And but that one is it's a little bit louder. But again, it has the scope. You still want one shot, one kill when you're hunting, especially if you need to bag more than one game. Because you don't want to be out there shooting the forest up, scaring all the animals away. So, but I do recommend the 22 long rifle, bolt action. Oh, and another good thing about this is because this is a good rifle to train new shooters on. Because of everything that I've mentioned. There's no recoil, it's not terribly loud, the rounds are not terribly expensive, so you can actually practice with this. And a 22 is just a lot of fun to fire. And I honestly believe that every household in America should have a 22 rifle. This really is a versatile rifle. It's fun. You can hunt with it. Now, granted, it's not going to be terribly efficient for self-defense or anything. But still, I mean, even a 22, I would not want to be shot by it. But this right here, this is a very good rifle to get, especially for first-time shooters. But if you are in a survival situation, I think that because of the weight, the size of the rounds, this would be my choice to have with me, as well as the fact that there's a lot less moving parts, so it's easier to maintain. Semi-automatics, you tend to have a lot more to clean. There's a lot more things to go wrong with them, so these are easier to maintain and easier to upkeep. So, and these things are really great for rabbits and snake. I will tell you that because the first caliber of rifle that I ever fired in my life was a 22, and that's what you use it for. It's very good for small animals. So this right here, this is a tool that can help you hunt in a survival situation. Now, all that being said, anytime that you handle any weapon whatsoever, you always want to treat this as if it's loaded. Even though I know this is not loaded, anytime I pick it up, I always make sure I check this. I will point the barrel in a safe direction, and I will ensure that there's nothing in the chamber. It is unloaded. And not only that, I do have the safety on. So that way, just in case, those are all things that you need to do. These are tools. They are dangerous. You need to make sure that you're treating them, respect them, and that's going to keep things safe. So those are the big three. Treat every gun as if it's loaded, and if you do that, everything will be fine. So I know a lot of people are, guns, scary, and they should be, but if you treat them properly, they're a great tool, a great asset, especially in a survival situation, to gather food. So, but that's it. So there you go. This is a Savage Mark II. I do like Savage products. My other hunting rifle is a Savage as well, and the third one that I do plan on getting is also going to be a Savage, because these things are they're a very good budget rifle. They're not gonna set you back too much, and they do have some pretty good reviews. So, all right, and as always, if this is your first time to the channel, I'd really appreciate it if you thought about subscribing. That'd be a great help. If you do decide to subscribe, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Go ahead and give this video a like, and then leave me a comment. I know a lot of people might not think of 22 is like the best to get, out the gate, but I honestly think that the first rifle anybody should get is a 22. Again, because this is it's like a gateway drug, if you will. Once you get a 22 and you start firing this, and you start to realize how it works, and you learn to respect a rifle or a handgun, and you start realizing what they are, and then this is going to lead to others. That's probably a fact. But if this is the only rifle you ever get is a 22, at least in a survival situation, you can carry a lot of rounds with you, and you can hunt small game, and there's always going to be a lot more small game than there is large game. So, for me, this is what I would recommend for your first weapon. I really like this rifle. This is a nice one. I have another 22. It's a semi-automatic, but I like this one a lot. So, but if you want to leave a comment, if there's anything that I've forgotten to say that's good about getting 22 right off, go ahead and leave it in the comments. There are bad things about a 22 also. I mean, it is a small round. It's not going to do a whole lot. So no weapon I think is actually like the perfect weapon. You're always going to have pros and cons, but I think that the pros of your first rifle being a 22 outweigh the cons of it. So especially if you are brand new, this is a really great rifle to familiarize yourself with. So you won't be disappointed. But in a survival situation, I think this would be my go-to, because again, this is 250 rounds, and it takes up like 3 square inches. So, but yeah, anyway, hope you like the video. Again, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit that like button, leave me a comment. And until then, keep prepping, and we'll talk again later.